All right, so now our recording is live, so I'll just share my screen right now. All right, so if you can see my screen, just let me know in the message box so I can proceed. Hope you're seeing my screen. Hi guys, see my screen. Someone should just signify, just signal me.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, thank you, Chimere. So now I'll proceed. Basically, I'm going to do a quick recap. So the first thing you have to do basically is to create a React app. Unlike our normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, that you can just open your VS Code and create a file and start coding. In React, you have to create the environment in which you can write React. React is a library that is built on top JavaScript, which is already a programming language. Assuming we want to write a programming language direct, we can just open our VS Code and create any file by putting .js. For writing Python, .py. For writing HTML. But you can't do .react. That's not how it works. So you have to actually create a React app. So the first step in creating a React app is npx. First step in creating a React app is doing npx create React. Npx create React app. Then you give it the name. My let's say I want to call it my React app, basically. So by pressing enter, I'm going to actually now create a React app, basically. I did that in the last class. So depending on most likely the processing speed of your system, it takes some time. Like it takes sometimes can even take up to 4 or 5 minutes to install dependency. If you go have good internet connection, it can take you a minute or 2 minutes. So it just depends on internet connection and the processing speed of your system. But definitely the React app will be created. But if you don't want to go through the stress of every time you want to write a React application, you have to copy, you have to actually do npx, then have to start installing dependency, or you don't have much data to use for all of that. What you can just do is open your VS Code, do npx create React app, then call it, you can call it anything you want to call it. Then anytime you want to create a new React app, you can just go to that folder and just copy everything in that folder and paste it in your new folder that you want to use. Then when you open your VS Code, you just navigate to that folder directly and you can write your React application. So what I'm saying in essence is that install the React application in a folder, but do not use it for your project. If you want to use it for any project, just can copy the files in that folder and paste it in the new folder of your project that you want to work on and start working on it. If you don't want to go through the stress of doing npx create React app every single time. So after we create a React app and we call it my React app, the second thing we'll do, we're going to change directory to the React app that we created, basically. So now, for example, now I created a React app called as you can see, I created a React app called Portfolio, right? So for me to actually for me to actually now start my React app, I have to actually change my directory to go to Portfolio. So I'll just do cd portfolio. Once I do it, it takes me to that directory. That's the folder that contains my React application. And the next thing I'll just do is npm start, basically. So once you run npm start, it's going to go straight to run on your localhost 3000. Basically, that's default. If localhost 3000 is already occupied, it will ask you to use another port, basically. So that's that for starting a React application. So now the second thing I'm going to talk about now is the folder structure of a React application. So as you can see, the first one now, what we call this is our node modules. This contains our dependencies, basically. You get React. To even write React at some point, you need some little amount of node.js, just a little amount on how to. Can I increase the size of the screen a little bit? Okay, let me do that. Um, Oluchuku, is this better now? Is this bolder? All right, all right. So basically, now I was explaining the folder structure. So the node modules now, it contains all the modules that React uses to run. Basically, if you are running a Node.js application, you notice that you have node modules. This node module contain most and a lot of the dependencies actually that we're working with, and also um inbuilt dependencies that React has to work with. Like, for example, now the node module, like, is actually even what makes creating a React app take a while, because there's a lot of things it installs. That you can look at this list of things, and all these things are necessary for your React app to run. If I delete one of this thing here, I'm going to get an error in my localhost 3000, basically. So that's that for node modules. Then we talk about the public folder. The public folder is actually the public folder is actually where um we keep things that we want the public to have access to. What do I mean by that? If I go live now with my React application, right? The public folder is what will contain my um images, contain my fonts. It will contain it's even containing my index.html, which is responsible for displaying the title of my page and so on and so forth, the description of my page and so on and so forth. So that's what the public folder is for. Basically, you store your images there. It has nothing to do with your source directory. So the public folder are what are the folder that is kind of accessible to people when you go live. Basically, like, it contains things that you want people to have access to practically. So you can put your fonts there, you can put your images there, and so on and so forth. So inside our public folder is where we find our index.html. Now, for example, now you can see that if you're writing HTML, you can change the title by editing the title tag in the HTML, right? In React, you just have to come to your index.html, which actually displays that actually contains the title, the favy icon. That's this icon that is here contains it. So if I want to change it to blockchain UNN, it loads and is reflecting. So basically now, okay, all right. So I can see I've edited the title. So that's where we edit. Okay, let me put it like this: the header of your HTML tag is kind of your index.html in your React application, where you can change the title, link your favy icon, add your description, and so on and so forth. So that's basically what the public please mute your call, Anthony.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Then you can see that I added some images to this. React to this public folder. I mean, so let's now go to the source folder. The source folder is not actually what contains your actual code, your pages, your components, your dot environment, your APIs, and so on and so forth. It's actually found in your source folder, basically. So what this source folder is for basically is that whenever you load your application on localhost 3000, any code or anything that you want to be displayed has to be inside your source folder. And I talked about data arrangement in the last class, which I said in React it's very important to make use of the major reason of why React was created. That is reusability of reusability of components, basically. I'll give me a minute. All right, so sorry, I have to quickly attend to something. So, as I was saying, the source directory contains all your code, your JavaScript files, your CSS, your components, basically. Then git ignore. Now, what is git ignore? Like I said earlier, the node.js file is so large. It's what makes creating a React app even take time. It's so loud. It's so large. Sorry, basically. So the git ignore, what helps you to do is that if you're uploading your React app or your code to your GitHub, what this git ignore does is to help stop uploading the node.js. Yes, because like I think the node.js exists the maximum amount of data that a particular repository can take. So because of how large it is and how much time it will take, that git ignore now enables you to, like, it stops you from uploading the node.js modules together. But everything necessary in that node.js, in that node modules, is going to be present in your package log.json folder. So that when you pull back from your GitHub, or when you clone from a GitHub repository that is a React app, you just have to do npm install. So once you run npm install, it helps get all the dependencies in the node module reinstalled back. So that's basically what that git ignore is for, to stop git from sending all the data, including your node modules, to your repository because of how large that node module is. Like, if I try to delete this node module now, it's going to take forever. Like, there's a lot of files in it. But I'm not saying that React app is 1 gig, oh, not at all. There's just a lot of dependencies present, basically. So then we have our package.json. Our package.json now actually contains dependencies that we install and we want to use. Like now, for example, if I want to add a pie chart to my application, I can use a dependency. I can use chat.js dependency. It's a dependency. Dependencies are kind of a mini application that just helps us on our website. Like, we have a lot of dependencies, both the necessary and the unnecessary. There's a lot. So if I want to add a chat to my React app now, instead of me starting from scratch, opening div and trying to create charts and killing myself with CSS, I can just npm install chat.js. So what that chat.js does is that it gives you various types of charts, pie charts, bar charts, and so on and so forth. And you can just edit it to your taste. So when we install the dependencies we want to use in our React app, it is being added to our package.json. So then we have the README. When you upload to your GitHub, it falls under the README section and any other um, version control system, basically. So that's that on the folder structure of a React application. Now, let's go straight to basically coding. So now I'm going to open this is my localhost 3000 and this is my app.js. Now let me show you something. If I create under my source directory which contains my code, basically, if I create a new file and I call it um, nav nav.js. Why I started with caps letter is so that if I use my RFCE shortcode, it will create my functional components with caps letter. If I did it with small letter now, for example, let me rename it to small letter now, right? And I clean this off. I clean this off, right? And I do RFCE. It's already initialized basically. But the idea now is that why I started with caps letter is that if you create it for the first time with small letter and you do your RAFC, it's going to create this in small letter. And a React component cannot be in small letter. Like the beginning cannot be small letter. It's going to throw an error. Definitely going to throw an error. Let me try this. Let's go to my app.js. Okay, rather I'll come back to this. Let's just start straight with. I don't want to. I want to go straight to the point. So let me do back to nav.js and let me uh, 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 uh. All right. So now, basically, I want to create a component called nav.js. Right. Well, why do I say a component basically? Because a navigation bar is what we reuse in every of our page most likely. That's why I call it a component because I need to reuse it. What if I just come to my source directory and I create um it directly in my source directory? It's not good arrangement. It's not good data structuring. So what I will do is create a folder. I'll call the folder components. Then I will just move this inside the components folder. So I've basically moved it. So now our nav.js inside our components, right? Why am I adding in a components folder? Because it is a component. It's the same way I'm going to create a folder and a file, sorry, and I'll call it footer.js. That is my footer, which I'm going to reuse in every other page, basically. So components are structures that you reuse, basically, or you tend to reuse in other pages, right? If you want your picture to be showing your about me to be showing in every page, you just put some other component and you create it. So now this is under our component folder. So in as much as we have a component folder, we should always have a pages folder, basically. Why am I saying this? It helps with good readability. If I come to a React code and I just see lots of code just lying inside the source directory, I'll be wondering where is this one under? Where is this one under? Okay, what's this one doing? Yeah, so you have to arrange your data in a very good manner so you yourself can know what you are doing basically. So now in these pages now, I can come and I created a pages folder. I'll create a file called let's say home.js. And I'll call it RAFC. Now, sorry, I'll put RAFC. So now, what do I do? The RAFC, the extension is. Let me write down the extension for you. This is the extension in case you need to download this for short code, or you can write it normally. So now let's practice something, right? If I come to my components folder now, or under my nav.js, and I write, let's say, I write, let me create a nav bar, create a nav bar, I'll create a list, and I'll create another list, and I'll probably let me call this home. I'll call this about, and I'll call this contact. Now I've created an unordered list in a navbar, basically, as you can see here. But when I come to refresh, nothing is being displayed. I hope we're still following. All right. Um, Nothing basically is being what's displayed. So how do I make this display on my page? Right. I'll come to my app.js. Now, because of it is a component and I want it to be standard, I don't want it to change. I'm going to import it direct inside my app.js. I would have come to my page and go to home.js, which is my home page, and import my navbar. But then anytime I switch from the home page, I'm not going to see my navbar again. So that's why I'll come directly to my app.js. So how do I get this navbar? I'll simply use the keyword import. Then when I do import, as we can see now, if I go back to my navbar, what did I export? Nav. I exported what? Nav. So when I go to my app.js, what am I going to import? Nav. So this is it. So I imported nav from dot component slash nav. So when I do this, I'll come to my JSX and I'll put in nav like this. So when I do that now, I can see my list showing. Basically, I can see my list showing. It's the same thing I want to do for my footer. So now let me go to footer. I think someone wants to join. Someone. Okay. When I come to my footer, I'll create a footer. I'll call it. Let me just write. Um, just create an H. Let's say. Let me create a small tag, and I'll say just 2023 dots or right reserved. All right, this is what I just want to write in my footer. And I also want that footer to be consistent in every page. So I just come to my app.js. Your app.js is what actually displays you. If what you want to display is not in your app.js, you're not going to see it on your browser. So I'll just come here and I will import. When I put import, I'll go to my footer. What did I export? Footer, right? I'll just go to the app.js back. Import footer from dot components, and I can just, you can see now I'm having a problem. And as we can see the problem, footer is defined but never used. That is what it's saying. Meaning I imported footer but I'm not using it. So it will show this line under. But once I make use of that footer by doing footer, once I do it like this basically, I can see it displaying now. So now I have my home and my about, right? So anything I put in the middle can change. Like if I decide to put H1 in the middle and I say blockchain here, it's going to display because now it's not in between my nav bar and my footer. So because of initially I wanted my nav bar and my footer to be consistent and constant across all pages. I just imported it directly in my words app.js. Then every other thing I put inside here basically can change from my routing. Like I can route it in a way that if I click on home, it will change from home to change to home. If I click on about, to change to about, and so on and so forth, basically. So under this home.js now, let's say instead of this blockchain.unn I wrote here, let me take this out. Let me come to about me. And let me put. I'm sorry. Let me come to pages or home. Sorry, and I'll put it there. Blockchain UNN. So once I put blockchain UNN, all I just have to do is come to my app.js. What do I do now? I
I can't
import.
see your screen more.
Is anyone having the same issue? Can't see
I
my.
can see your screen. I think it's the network from inside.
Okay, you can see my divine.
Yes,
All right.
yes, I can see your screen.
Anthony, maybe you leave the call and join back. Basically, you raise the hand. What's the issue? What's the question?
Kind of lost. I don't know if you can repeat the whole process.
You are lost.
Yes.
Where are you lost at?
Why is there two folders? The one of app.js and the other one. As in, I don't get the whole process.
I didn't get your question.
My, I said, why are we having two folders and then importing and exporting? I didn't get the whole thing. My network was disturbing me.
Okay, the basic reason why we're having folders and importing and exporting is just for good coding practice and understanding. Now let me show you something. Eh, because most people, especially at the beginning of React, they ask, why am I creating all these folders? But if you are coding in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you definitely create about.html, index.html, contact.html to have different pages. It's the same way you need to create those pages in React. But now you have to add them in a pages folder because this source folder can contain so many things. Like you know that we're literally writing JavaScript, but JSX is enabling us to write HTML inside JavaScript because the name of the folder is .js. So that folder structure is important. This source folder that you're seeing, it can contain my API. Like I can create an API folder inside. I can create a environment folder inside. I can create an asset folder inside. So many things inside. So because of the amount of things this source folder can do, we have to categorize them basically. Okay, Richard, what's your question? Yeah, Richard, what's your
Yeah,
question?
yeah. My question is quite going back foul, But I
Okay.
wanted to ask, did you use, was it npm create my React app you used? Because I didn't follow from
Yes,
that
yes. I
part.
use yes, I use npx create React app.
But I saw somewhere where they said that one is not working anymore. That it's now like Vite or something. I was checking like how
No,
they did this thing.
npx still
Does
works fine. Like
okay,
on
okay.
Sunday, it was npx we used, but Vite makes it easier. I don't know if that's making sense.
Okay. Is there a difference between npm and npx?
Yes, yes.
Okay, what you
MPX
used was
is a
npx.
yes. What I used was MPX.
Okay, 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 okay.
Yes, yes, not MPM.
Thank you.
All
Okay,
right.
okay.
So we need to create all these folders because we definitely will have pages. We definitely need to group some things, basically. So now proceeding, in my pages now, my home.js, I wrote blockchain union and I exported home. So I'll just come to my app.js and I'll just import home. And I'll just come here. I'll just come here and put home. Okay, Aja Anthony, what's your question?
Okay, thank you, sir. My question is that how will you have to import everything to our app.js?
No, you don't have to import everything to app.js. Okay, let me now show you. Hey, let's try this. Let me show you something now. In my components now, I've done my navbar and my footer, right? Let's see what other page is consistent. Okay. Let's imagine a portfolio now, for example. The first thing down that we see is the name of the person and the picture. The second section we see is let me just look for let's quickly look for a portfolio. Um, okay, let's do not take me to LinkedIn. This one that I don't know how clearly we are seeing this here, but this is the basic thing I want to explain now. This is a portfolio, right? So now in this portfolio now, there's the navigation bar. Let me try to save this image so we can just you guys can still see my screen, right? Divine, your hand is still raised up. Okay. So now this is a portfolio page, right? And this is my home page, for example. Now this is my home page. Now in this home page, I can say this first part is a section, this second part is a section, this third part is a section, and this fourth part is a section. So instead of me just coming to my home, my page, if I go to pages now, and I go to home, and I'll start doing everything inside my home, I don't want to do that. I want to divide all of this into sections because I might need to show my specialities again in my about me. I might need to show my services again in my services section, as we can see on top of the service section basically. I might need to show all of this. So I don't want to put everything in one page. I want to put everything as components so I can just pick them and use them anytime I want. So now I'll come to components folder. And in this component folder now, I'll create a new file. And I'll call this new file hero.js. Now this hero, sorry, capital letter. This hero.js now is specific for only this first part. So now I'm just going to, then I'll say, yes, let me just write hero. Then this second part now, I'll call it clients. With my recent client, I'll call it clients. Let's make it a component. I'll call it clients.js. And I'll go use my source code. I've gotten clients, right? Then the third one, let's call it specialist. Create a new file. Let me just call it special.js. And I'll come here, create my special, right? So now I have three sections as components. So I can just come to my pages, go to my home, which represents the whole of this page. And instead of this blockchain UNN I'm writing here, I'll just import all those sections. So the first section now I'm going to import is hero, right? So let's import hero. Import hero. Then I'll just come here. I've added hero. Let's see what we can see. This is it. Let's refresh. As we can see, hero. Right? Don't worry, we're going to add CSS. I'll go to that. Then after the hero, I want the next section that should show to be what was the next section? I think clients, right? Now let's import clients. Import clients. I've imported clients. Going to reflect clients, right? What is actually reflected? What is in our JSX? That's what we're seeing. Look at the hero. It was hero that if I change this hero with to this is my hero page, going to reflect this is my hero page. So when we import a file, whatever is going to be showing here has to be what is inside our return. So this is what we're returning when we import it. So I'll go back to my home page, and the last thing I want to import basically is my special.js. So I'll just import special, which is what I exported. And when I do that, I can just come here and go special. So you can see now the three different components into one. So we are not importing everything inside app.js, or just importing what we need. Like since home.js has already imported these three, app.js does not need to import all those clients, hero and special, that are not at all. They just only need to import home, which is already importing this home already, which is already importing our hero, client, and special. That's basically how it works, right? So now let us add styling. Let us add styling. I don't know if all of us understand what I just explained, basically. Are there any new messages from me? All right, so that's basically how we import and export folders, group them into components and pages, and the rest and all of that. So the next thing I want to talk about now is styling. Already 1 hour in. So now, how do we style basically? Now, in the last class, I spoke about three major ways of styling. I can style inline, I can style internal, and I can style external. So let's start with inline styling. Let's go to our navbar. Right. So in our navbar, I want to do internal styling. I can come here, I can come to this UL tag and do style. Once I do style, to close a curly brace for me. I'll have to add another curly brace. Then I'll break it down. If I press enter, I'll take it down. Then what do I do? What do I want to remove? Let me remove the. Let me make it. Let me display add display flex to it so it can line up. So I'll just do display flex. This is how we write inline styling. I can add justify content space between. Then I can add don't forget your comma because it's like as if you're writing an object in JavaScript. That's how the inline styling is. You can add a padding of 10 pixels, and that's just about it. That is how inline styling works. Type your style to give you a curly brace, add another curly brace, then you treat your this thing like you treat the whatever you write inside your style like as if you're writing an object. So you don't add unlike in normal CSS now you are going to be adding iPhone. If you add iPhone, it gives you an error. So whenever you want to apply a style that has an iPhone separating it, you can just take out that iPhone. You can just take out that iPhone and replace it with the capital letter of the next word. So let's say I want to add a what styling should I add now? Font width. So I forgot my I add a comma first. Font add font width now. I do the font. So that iPhone that used to be in between, yeah. This is how it is normal in CSS, but you can't write it like this. So you have to do it this way. Font width, then I'll put 700 to increase my font width. Then lastly, let me do list style. Style none. So it takes out that dot at the end. So I've added inline styling. Now for footer, now let me use internal styling. So how do we do internal styling? Before our return statement, we are going to create a const. I'm going to call that const styles, right? And I'll open my curly brace. The same way I wrote it before. So what's the first thing I want to do? Font size. So font size, let's say 25 pixel. Text align. Let me add the text align center. Center. And let me add a font width. Font width. Um, 700. So how do I add this style? I'll just have to come to small, I'll click in style, and I'll just put my what styles. So now if you refresh, you can see. Let me add a width of 100% so it will go to the middle. We'll be going to the middle. Okay. That's that for that, basically. So that's how you add internal styling. You create the styling outside your return statement, then you put it inside your inline style. So what it means is that if this is equal to this, so if I take this now, if I take this here now and I replace it with this, it's going to give me the same effect. If I refresh, the same thing. It's the same thing basically. So that's the second way of styling. Then our third way of styling, uh, let me create a new folder. I'll create a new folder now, and I can call it my CSS. Then inside my CSS now, I can say, okay, this styling is for my home.js. Alright, this styling is for my home.js. So let me create a new file and call it home.css. So this home.css, I want to apply styling to my home. So I'll go to my home.js. I'll give it a class name. Let's give it a class name. Let's call it home. Let me know you guys are still following. So I'll call it home. Then I go to my I have to import the style. This I forget. I have to import the style. So import, what I did now is import the home.css that I created. So if I come here now and I do dot home and I did a font size of 30 pixel. This is not reflecting for some reason. Let's see. Home. Okay, yes. You can see it increased the font size. If I do display flex direction column gap 3 should separate everything. I can add a padding block of 2 rem. So you can see now this is external signing. So I have a folder containing all my CSS that I just need to import the CSS to where I want to use that particular one basically. So that's the three ways of styling in React basically. So now I want to the next step now basically. So what is the next step? Let's learn about props. I don't know how many of us have heard about props in React. So before I proceed, does anybody have any question right now on CSS, importing, creating components, creating pages, creating folder, and the rest of all of that? Any question at all? All right. So now let's talk about props. Now, what is props? What do you mean by props? Props are props is a name. I don't know where that name come from. To be very honest, I don't know where it came from. I mean, sorry. To be very honest, no idea. But they just call it props. When you go further in React, you notice that at some point you'll be like, why is it called props? Exactly. Like why? So now, how does prop works? If if for example now I want to I want this my nav bar. Now all this home about me contact. I want it to be dynamic. When I mean dynamic is, let's say we have a another list now called login. Let's say this is another list now that we have login. I want a situation whereby I don't want this login to show unless like I want to be able to put the login and not put the login. Right? So what does prop enable us to do? Props enable us to pass data from one component to the other. I can decide that everything I have here, this login, this contact, this about and this home. I want it to be coming from my app.js. So I don't want it to be coming from my nav file direct. I want it to come from my app.js. So how do I send that data list from my app.js to my navbar? So last week I spoke about ternary operators, right? I spoke about ternary operators. So now let's just the first thing I want to do. I'm just basically going to pass props directly now. I'm not going to create any kind of condition. So now I want to pass props. I'll come to this my navbar. See this my navbar. Click enter just to arrange it well. Once I do that now, I want to say list one. List one should be equals to home. Then I want to say list two should be equals to about. I want to say list three should be equals to um, contact. So I want to pass all of this to my nav. Like right now, my navbar does not have anything because my navbar have to get the information from somewhere. And this my app.js now wants to pass that information to the navbar through props. That is why I wrote it inside the navbar tag. So since they are inside the navbar tag now, how does this navbar know that information is being passed in it? Once I add props here, what this prop does now is it checks wherever the navbar was imported, whether there was an extra data given to it. So this is the key. List one, list two, list three is the key. And what this home about and contact is the value. So if I want to target this home, target this about, target this contact, I have to use these keys. So for example now, if I come back to my nav now, since I've did props, I've passed an argument called props. I'll just come to list one. Like I said last week, if you want to write any form of JavaScript in your JSX, you must open a curly brace. If I've opened my curly brace, I'll just do props dot list one. You can see I'm not seeing home. I'm not seeing home basically. So I can decide to replicate this 4 times and just home. But then I have list two and list three. So I can come here and say list two and list three. Now, what's the importance of this basically? If you log into an app now, you want your name to be showing somewhere on the navbar. How did they condition to pass your name in React? Just by passing it as props and giving it a condition. So I want to add a name now, and I'll call name divine. Yeah, I just come here. All I have to do is just do props dot name, and it should give me divine here. That's basically it. So that's how props work. It helps collect data from its parents because this navbar now is a child component to this app.js. So it is collecting data now. This nav now is collecting data now from its parent component, which is app.js, receiving it through props and passing it down to in the return statement. So now let's make use of ternary operators. If I have a condition saying const, let me create a variable called const logged in. So const logged in equals to true. Right, this is a condition. Const logged in is equals to true. And I want to pass a a third list. If pass something else saying login equals to login, so I can just come to this my list again, add one more list and type in log in. So what it does is show me, yeah, you have to log in. Oh. But I created a const here saying login is true. So if login is true, this login here is not supposed to be showing, right? So what I have to do is just right here, put my curly brace, logged in, question mark. What this is doing is that it's asking if login is true. So login question mark. So if login is true, I want it to return nothing. But if it is false, which is this semicolon separates, I want it to return log in. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. So now login is true. You can see there's nothing here. But if I change login, because login is true, and this is the return for true, empty string. But if I change login now to false, I'm going to see login. So that's how ternary operators work, and that's how you can pass various conditions. And just so in a situation whereby somebody is a situation whereby somebody is filling a kind of form, or you want a place where somebody has to put information and you want to use that information in the next page, basically, yeah, you can use props to like pass it down and so on and so forth. So that's how basically props work. So are you guys following? All right, so basically, so far I've covered components, I've covered importing and exporting of various
Network issues
files.
do not really allow me understand the props that you and this ternary operator you just did now. I kept going out of the call to come back in, so I was not really understanding what you were
Oh,
saying.
okay. I have to unfortunately stop the class at this point because I'm running on a low battery. I have power issues right now. So I'm going to actually fix a continuation class on Thursday so that we can round up basically. So I think this ran for, yeah, an hour plus basically. And why I'm fixing that continuation class is because I've not covered everything I want to cover. I want to teach you guys about states and effects. State and use effects basically. These are very common things we run into. Probably the next class will not take up to an hour or max an hour basically. And I'll teach you how to consume APIs. I'll explain what API is and all of that. But unfortunately the class has to like end now. It's supposed to run till 9:30, but I'm having power issues right now. But basically, summary of what we've covered today is component structuring, page structuring, how to import, how to add styling, and passing props. I'll make sure this recording is available at most tomorrow so that you guys can look at it and understand whatever you want to understand for Thursday, which I'm now going to use to finally round up the class, basically. So yeah, and concerning your, okay, Anthony.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know. Is there any way that this recording will be made ready after, like after tonight, maybe tomorrow should be out so that we can be able to go through it? Is there any way that can be possible?
Yes, I'll make that possible tomorrow.
Even the last the last two classes I wasn't there. So
No problem.
I want also that it should be made possible that I can go through it to catch up.
All right, that's no problem. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to mention was about the project. You'll be getting your project topics most likely by Thursday or Friday. So those that are eligible can start working on it. So I'm just putting in a reminder basically. So yeah, thank you all for attending today. We're supposed to end today, but just quite a few things left to teach you guys. I can't leave you guys like this half done. Basically, there's just two to three things that are very common in React I want to mention. So we're going to have a continuation class on Thursday. I know it's out of the schedule plan, but just try to make it. I'm going to just take at most 1 hour of your time on Thursday so we can just round this up if that is fine. So I'll see you guys on Thursday. I'll make sure the recording is available as soon as possible.